How you doing?
I'm solid. How are you guys?
Fantastic. I can always speak for myself. I'm great. How's everybody else?
Very blessed. Rich in blessings.
Uh-huh.
That's good. Today or this week, we're talking about community, and I've done a lot of work in community and around everything that's going on. It's brought a question to me that I've had to like redefine like what community is and like what at least try to find my own definition of like what that is. And I'd like to propose like just to everybody else, just like what is community to you? And like, yeah, because I feel like we all have definitions of things. So I'm really interested in specifically us getting clear on that. So um Rich, how does that fit with you? What is community to you? What is community with WinWorld?
So, from a me perspective and from a winner perspective, community is um, like mind, like lifestyles, uh, coming together to propel each other and to elevate. Um, I feel like especially on Earth today, there's so many different types of personalities, so many different types of perspectives
Mhm.
that building communities that actually can like work together, fit together is 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 easy, but it's a challenge at the same time. So, but with all that being said, either way, I think it's at its utmost importance in the history of our species right now in
Mhm.
building communities. So.
Yeah. What is something that you are with your own community that you've built? Like, what are you trying to give, I guess, to the greater community that's you? I guess you are serving with
Mm-hmm.
that lens.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We want to give something aesthetically pleasing first and
Mhm.
foremost. Why? Because aesthetics changes emotion. Aesthetics changes intellect. So we want to give something aesthetically beautiful. Beauty is love. We want to give something aesthetically beautiful. We want to give love. At the same time, we want to give information. Um, Information only to elevate, information to get better, information to improve, and we want to give people a space where you could come. If you think like us, if you're into the things we're into, if you see the world, kind of the way we see it, we want to give you a physical space where you could come live and you could come grow a family.
That's dope.
Yeah, so those this is what we aim to do in community with the things we got going on at Win World.
For sure. Josh, Wagwan, welcome. Can't hear you. You're muted, but that's okay.
Oh, you hear me now?
Yeah, man. Yes. How's it going?
Peace, peace, peace. How's everyone doing?
Very good. And just so everybody knows, your name is Josh here, but what's your WinWorld name? What's your
Holyfield, Holyfield, Holyfield.
All right. I needed you to say it. I couldn't say it.
It's all good. It's all good. How you doing, though, bro?
Very good, very good. I have no complaints. I'm wearing a purple shirt. It's bringing out the melanin in my skin.
That's lazy.
Feel good.
This is my first time on Zoom, so bear with me.
Really?
This is my second time on Zoom.
My
What?
first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's exciting. Welcome.
Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you.
Well, welcome to the greater community of Eternal Remedy, I guess, and what we're trying to accomplish of just bringing, I guess, like-minded people together and having these conversations at like these strange times. We were talking about community earlier, and I wanted to know what what do you think specifically in terms of the black community? Where does the black community go from here now? Because we're asking a lot from the world right now, but amongst ourselves, where do we go?
Organization, I think, is key for us as a people. I think there's a shared almost, no, I wouldn't say hate, but there's a shared, discomfort, a shared, um, you know, kind of pain for everything that's been going on for who knows how many years at this point. And I think right now, you know, that's good. Like that to kind of have that water boil over kind of thing. Like it needed to happen. Like we needed to get to a point where, you know, again in history we said not enough. This is enough. Like we have to just, you know, do what we need to do to kind of take the next steps for our people. So I think right now it just takes a little bit of organization. It takes a little bit of patience, even though that sounds crazy coming from, you know, everything we've been through. But I think the more organized we are as a people, the more supportive we are, you know, just because there's going to be other people, other movements within our own people that are going to be doing various things. And I think the more support we have directed to our brothers and sisters, whether, you know, there's somebody from our community doing sports or someone from our community doing school, like it doesn't really matter the avenue. I think the support system has to be a little better. And I think once the organization and support gets better, then we can worry about, you know, the little things after that. But I think that foundation needs to start with organization and support for sure.
Rich, what do you think?
I wanted to touch on the word support and what that means in this 3D reality that we're living in right now. And I'm somewhat of a, like, I love world history. Like I love ancient history, all the histories, all the time periods, all of them. I love them all. I study them. And if we look at any time period and we look at, you know, what support means, support an organization, support comes in two fashions, especially when we're dealing with, like, you know, a nation of people. And that's monetary and military. And by military, I don't necessarily mean guns, bombs, and ammunition, but like you need strong allies. You need allied forces. You need to be able to partner with somebody. You need to be able to know that somebody else who is self-sufficient has your back. You understand what I'm saying? So in reference to the Black community where we go, like my bro just said, like Holyfield just said, you know, organization and support, but the support is intelligent investment. The support is moving money and placing it in the right places. The support is, again, strong nations who are self-sufficient. Come fuck with us and come roll with us. You know what I mean? Like, you all right, you want to make statements, you want to post black squares and all that, but come roll with us, come really fight this battle with us. So I feel like, yeah, organization, support, and unity. Unity takes discipline, like, you know what I'm saying? Unity, man. Especially like for the Black man over here, we live in the Western society, so our perspective is the I, is the individual, right? If we lived out east on the eastern side of the world, we'd be definitely a lot more we focused, right? So, but to unify, for the things we need to do, we need to be on we time for like a long time. So, like he said, like patience. You know what I mean? We time for a long time. So we'll see.
Yeah, we will see. Oh man, unity is one of those things because I think the number one thing that unites us is obviously the color or like this the ethnicity that we kind of portray for or that we come from. But I think there's confusion in terms of where what we unify over, because I've seen a lot of people talking about just in terms of equality, like we want equality in one way, but we don't seem unified on a certain stance or a variety of political things. So that is how we are diversified. And it's like, how do we collectively unify under like one banner of just like equality, I guess. I'm not too sure. How does that feel with you guys?
You want me to tackle that question first?
Go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
It kind of goes back to the first thing I was saying. Like it's hard to even go to even those kind of lengths. You know what I'm saying? Like unless that foundation, that bottom is more solid. I feel like it makes any kind of collective agreement or any ideology or anything you want to kind of push forward hard if there isn't some type of, you know, kind of common goal as to where the direction of where everything wants to go, kind of thing. Like who is kind of steering the car for real, who's leading us into the direction. Because like I said, we can have the numbers, like Rich said, we can be posting all these black squares, we can be doing this, that, and the third, but okay, what's next? Where are we going with all that? So I think, again, it's hard to say. It's hard to gauge.
It's very difficult. It's very, very difficult. But it's difficult because, and you alluded to this, Evan, but like the thing, like what exactly are we, there's so many different things that we're fighting about or fighting for. So
Because there's a long list.
a very long list.
That's what I'm saying. Like we sorry to cut you off. We almost have to like come together as a people and realize that there is a long list. Realize that, you know, there's a lot of shit that we've allowed to fester up, happen, affect us through decades and decades and decades and decades. So we have to sit down as a people and say, you know, kind of look at a grocery list for real. Like, okay, we have $100 budget or whatever dollar budget. Maybe we can't get to this on this grocery run, but what do we need to get on this run that could set us forward 10 steps ahead, and then maybe we'll circle back on this one, because it's humanly impossible to please everybody, especially, you know what I'm saying, because we need a lot. So it's we have to literally come down as a people, or, you know what I'm saying, allow each kind of section of people within our culture to handle something. I think that's what it needs to be like. It can't be a one person fits all. It got to be, you know, different families, different. And then on top of that, when another family is doing something, support that family. Like, it's really that simple. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I know somebody's doing that side on the sports era, or sports side, whatever, and that's a fellow Black brother of mine, and he's doing a good job, I don't have to tear him down. I don't have to, you know, I don't have to not support him because I'm going to be doing something on this side, or even if it's the same thing, the more the merrier. But I think once we kind of come to those collective agreements and figure that all out, I like what we can do, because we're a strong people. So
For sure. You brought up something that was really interesting to me, and then and in you saying it, I just realized, I was like, what is it that we want? Like, or not even we, what is it that I think we're looking to gain? Does that make sense?
mm-hmm.
For a long time, I've struggled with this question, because you feel like you know what you want, but then you start to think about it. If you're to like write down a grocery list, you're kind of like, what is it? Like, and because I come from a very personal, or like I come from my sense of I, like a very specific community, but you two could come from a different community, and Stefan, Mark, Nadia, Shannon all come from different places, you know, and that grocery list could look different. And I'm interested because right now we are marching, we are trying to find unity, and like what do you think that we have a common goal right now, at least overtly? Does it feel like we have
out in the open? Do we have a common goal?
Yeah. Do you feel like we have a common goal?
No, we have common emotions. We're very unified on how we feel about it, but we're not unified on the aim or the direction. And part of that, honestly, like, I feel like even, you know, with COVID going on, I feel like we all maybe have gotten a sense of this, but how important like physical interaction, being close in proximity to each other really, really is. So like part of, you know, getting that grocery list out the way, you know, Black people have to live close to each other. It doesn't make, you know, I'm sorry, but it doesn't make sense for Black people to be in the state of Minnesota. That doesn't even make sense.
I try to get straight out that line. What's that?
For real, like there's nothing that we're doing there. Like it doesn't make sense for Black people to be in Minnesota, California, Texas, Colorado. It just doesn't make sense. So like if leaving the United States and shifting to a whole different location is an issue, because, you know, every time we get to have this conversation, it sounds radical. But if that's an issue, then at least we should occupy some states and cities within proximity. And then you can start to even see the different kinds of, like you said, the different kinds of grocery lists that we might need. So, it's a lot, honestly, like, it's a lot.
Yep, definitely.
Mark, I saw you nodding.
Nah, we've had these conversations before, so it's just funny to hear him say some of these things. But nah, like I totally agree. Like we don't really we share a common, you know, discomfort, you know, common emotions and everything, but we don't share, you know, a common goal. And I think that's okay. You know, like you know, I've, in all my years of living, like, you know what I'm saying, I've never seen a pandemic like this, or I've never seen certain things too. So it's new to a lot of us, like, to even, you know, see, to be honest, I never thought I would see the day that white people would recognize white privilege for real. Like, like I never thought I would hear the day a white person would actually say, wow, like, I have a certain privilege over another race, or whatever the case may be. So I think it's pretty crazy that we're in these times, and I think it's going to be kind of new for everybody. So again, we just have to kind of, you know, once everything kind of settles down, figure out what is the next goal, or what are we trying to accomplish here. And then as soon as we do that, I kind of like our chances.
You brought up settling down, and I have an interesting thought. I'm like, do you want it to settle down?
Yes and no. Yeah, yes and no, because I feel if it doesn't settle, and I don't mean settle down in terms of like, you know, the marches, and I'm not saying so. I mean, like, once it's kind of like it's kind of like when we were all younger and our parents used to tell us to really calm down and think about why you're mad. Why do you feel this way? What are you going to do to change about it? Like, you can't even begin to ask yourself these questions if we are so, you know,
emotionally charged.
Yeah, we're so charged up over, you know, the 400 or whatever X amount of years that we've been dealing with this bullshit. So it's like, once we settle down, then we're able to apply and do something, you know, critical about it.
Mm-hmm. I know that. I had a thought. I had a quote that I like made a long time ago when this pandemic first happened, and it was 2020 is not the year anybody wanted. You know, people are making jokes like, this is not a vibe, this is not all these things. And what has come to pass now has reframed 2020 to me is like, 2020 is not the year we wanted, but it's the year we needed. And I've been in this place where I don't think I want things to slow down. And I want things to, not in terms of violence or in terms of like anxiety, but I want this not to go away. I want the discomfort to stay. I want these conversations to stay. I want us to think radically about the things that we are doing. And I want us to stay in this place and to really question, is there an old place that we actually liked? And when I say we, I generally mean like all of us, and then far more specifically, people of Black, Indigenous people of color. Is this a place that we'd like to be before? And because right now we're being heard, right now we have momentum. It's like, do I want things to calm down? Do I want to go back? Do I want 2021 to be like 2019? And I think the easy answer is no. And I think the scary answer is, what do I want the future to look like?
That's what I was just about to say. Like, you might not, you know, want to go back, but are we ready to go forward for real?
They're like, are you ready? Are we ready?
Prepared.
Yeah. Oh man. And I guess that's good. In terms of your community, like how would you like to support, and like what does the future look like for you?
On a Winworld side?
Yeah, just like, yeah, let's start from there, and then you can speak more broadly.
Okay. On our side, we have a couple programs in place for youth, for Black youth especially, and pretty much everything we want to do is education.
Mm-hmm.
So introducing kids to different texts, different historical books, different art books, different novels, and also teaching Black kids how to use technology, like teaching them really how to tap in, how to use Illustrator, how to use VPNs the right way, how to set up networks for themselves, things like that. That's where kind of our focus is right now, is in educating.
Uneducated. Okay, right. Yeah. I mean, I think education has been, at least I feel like I've learned so much from my own point of view in like just in these past 2 weeks. Like I've seen so much information moving around, and I feel like I've personally learned a lot. Um,
Likewise.
and I think there's like an assumption that I already know and that I can teach, and I think that there's so much that we have to learn ourselves. We have to educate ourselves on. And I just, what do you know of anything that like you think we're missing right now? Like, what is something that a lot of people in our community need to like really dig in and like learn about?
For real, I hate to blanket say Black history, but like real, I want to say real history,
Mm,
real history. So like, people in our community can learn about the Moors of the early 900s to 1100s, 1200s. You know what I'm saying? People can learn about how their society looked, right? Because like what you said earlier, we don't necessarily have a place we want to go back to, but maybe that's because we don't know what it used to look like. You understand what I'm saying? Or what it can look like. And
mm,
I feel like that's a big issue, especially in our communities, because we don't, a lot of us are ignorant to the history of our direct ethnicity, and then also ignorant to real world history. We don't know the possibilities of what the future could be.
mm,
And we don't have an imagination on how things could really look. But I feel like if you start with the ancients and you work your way up, I feel like it changes fundamentally changes how a person, then a Black person even sees themselves when they really learn ancient history. And that doesn't get taught. And then when it does get taught, it gets whitewashed and it gets misconstrued and it gets revisionized and it gets, you understand what I'm saying? So I honestly, I'm a big believer in you learn history, you know what I'm saying? We could change the world.
mm. I was gonna say, because of the way history is taught, and because of the way I guess I even think about history being Canadian, um, is there a way that you think even I would say specifically Black people can like support other communities outside of ourselves? Because I've always felt like that we are someone who are people who need to be supported, and I think that in itself is a problem as well. But do you think learning history and like how can we support other communities as well? Like that is there something that we need to develop in ourselves to like learn how to support others as well?
Uh, I think it comes from relationships. I think it comes from a trust factor. I think, especially right now, with everything going on, we're still trying to figure out who our enemies are, to be honest with you. I'm not gonna lie. We're still trying to decipher how we look at the world as a people. We're still trying to decipher, you know, was that person I grew up with always racist? Was he kind of? Was she, or was this? Like, we're still, a lot of these new things are being unpackaged that are written, which we weren't expecting. Like you kind of said, like no one went into 2020 kind of thinking it would be this way. So I think, again, once we're able to kind of, look around and see who's really for not just supporting Black people and change for that, but who's for the betterment of the world and just how everyone lives together as a people,
Mm-hmm.
then as soon as you're able to do that, then I think, we can start connecting with other communities and families and all that and really figure out how we can help other people. But, you can't help, you can only help so many people until you help yourself, though. We got to figure out, again, what is our end goal, what are we looking for, and once we understand that, then we understand how everyone's going to fit into the puzzle of that, and how we can be an instrument for someone else's band as well too.
Yeah.
So
To piggyback off what Holyfield just said, like bottom line, we can't. There's no support that we can give you until we're able to support ourselves, until we're self-sufficient.
yeah,
Otherwise, we come to the table as, you kind of look at us with a side eye, like, well, you just want to help me because you don't you like, and then that what like he said, it breeds distrust. There's not too many other communities in the world that really trust the Black community. Just that's the
Mhm.
bottom line, right?
Damn near none at that point.
Who would trust the Black community? Does the Black community trust the Black community? Like how, you know what I'm saying? So like if you don't trust somebody, or you think their motivations aren't pure, even that kind of support isn't been received well.
It's not even gonna work.
Yeah.
I can't rock with you if I don't trust you.
Do you think that's something we created for ourselves? And I keep saying we. I'm like, do you think this is? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
It's a combination of a lot of things. It's definitely
Compound.
it's deep rooted, from self-hate within ourselves. That's why my brother asked, do we ourselves trust the Black community? That's one. And then kind of being screwed over so many times, you're just gonna kind of get a distrust and a distaste for damn near anyone around you. So I think healing needs to be done first. And the only way that healing can be done is to fix our own home first. We can't go into anybody else's home and say this, say that, and fix this when we got a lot of work to do within our own communities. And I think once we do that, we'll be stronger than ever to help to lay a hand, because we've been kind of laying hands and helping other people even while being at our weakest, and we still kind of help. So just imagine when we
having one arm and still, giving a leg, like
still giving you my last. So just imagine when we actually have more tangible things to give, that can extend and exceed outside of what we naturally have. Because I'll even give another example. Like even in Jamaica right now, we have a deal with the Chinese where they're building
the
highways, their resorts, and I think that's over like a 300 million or whatever deal, a loan, whatever that we're getting from China. Come on, like
deal, right?
You see what I'm saying? Like, and on top of that, those are going to be named after Chinese companies and Chinese, like.
So in the middle of Jamaica, you have a Shanghai resort, like
you see what I'm saying? So how can I really trust you guys? Like I can't. Like you're coming here. You don't. There's no way a Jamaican person could go to China right now and do any of that.
And whoa, imagine
me, a Jamaican man, go to Chinese right now and say, let me build a highway. Let me build a. Come on, it's not gonna work. It's impossible. It's not ill and void. Those rules don't. No, but we can do business.
Okay, you could pay us.
Exactly.
So you can accept the money from us, so we can stay here forever.
Exactly. So again, we got to pull our weight up. So when we now come to these meetings and we come to these negotiations, we have something to offer. We have equity. We have power. We don't have that. We're lying to ourselves and we think we have that, or we're not leveraging it the right way. And that goes back to organization and planning anyways. Again, we have our own stuff to fix in our own house.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you guys a little chicken and egg question. You guys mentioned the concept of trust within the Black community and remedying those issues. And then we also have a separate thread right now where we're also discussing this development of ecosystem within the Black community. So what comes first and what has to come first?
Trust. But see, I said that too fast.
Nah, I think you're on the right line though.
Okay, it is trust, but at the same time, all right, no, trust is the wrong word. I feel it's blind. You have to have a sense of blind faith a little bit. We have to have a little blind faith that will ease into functional trust. But when I say blind faith, I mean like, again, we go back to world history. Anytime a group of people elevated themselves, brought themselves from one social standing to another, or one economic standing to another, they followed instructions from a source. It might be one person, it might be one organization, but they followed instructions. They followed instructions without, they took the eye out for a second, just had, sometimes the blind faith is by force, but they took the eye out and they had faith in order to, all right, we got to take it from here to here. So in the Black community, in order to build an ecosystem, we have to have trust in our experts in certain arenas, and then just a trust in like Evan, you said earlier, a banner. We have to have trust in one banner. You know what I'm saying? Trust in our experts, trust in the banner, and everybody do the work. Nadia, I don't know if that answers the question, chicken or the egg.
It does. It's definitely, it does. And I guess my follow-up question to that is, how do we encourage the development of trust, and how do we get from that I to that we mentality for the people who don't actually in their hearts believe in it right now in 2020? Because I know you were mentioning a lot about how this was done historically, and I mean, every minute things change. So how right here and right now do we remedy that trust issue, or the the issues that we had referred to?
Yeah. One, we have to be transparent about. So we have in the United States of America. I'm not sure about Canada right now, but in the United States of America, there's 5 Black billionaires. They have to, and I say them because they represent the most financially stable in our class, but they have to be more transparent about what exactly they're doing. How are they helping us? And I feel like if we see strong leadership unified through the richest of us, the most well off of us, I feel like that'll trickle down a little bit to those of us on the lower levels of society. But right now in the Black community, there's a lot of things that go around where we want to bash our leaders. We want to say our leaders are not leaders. You know what I'm saying? Like that's essentially what we do a lot. And that's part our fault. That's part their fault. Because again, there's so much secrecy. There's so much. We almost feel like they live in a different world. I feel like if our leaders would come down for a sec, humanize themselves, make themselves a little more transparent in terms of what they're doing, where they're putting their money at, I feel like we might, okay, all right, I see that. I can get behind that. And then from there, it kind of starts to spark.
I want to quickly interject here and circle back to Evan's first point around who is this kind of all for? Like, who exactly is the Black community comprised of? Because Mark introduced the point yesterday about Blackness in Jamaica. Like, to him there's no such thing as a Black community in Jamaica. So even the nuances and reservations that we have around like coming in and interfering and diluting Blackness, that's like a unique experience to those of us who can speak on that within North America, for example, or maybe even the UK. So I guess what I want to reintroduce is like, who exactly is the work for?
That's a great question. And this is why certain movements are a little weird, and certain types of protests are also a little weird, because this situation, this experience is going on across a multitude of fronts. So you have like the Black American or North American Black experience, and then you have the African experience that are disconnected but are totally conjoined with each other. So like, for example, the world fighting for George Floyd, or the world coming out to protest for George Floyd, are like your question: are we protesting for the American Blacks and what they're going through and the police brutality, or are we protesting because we can see that in our countries and all the countries in the world, that Black people are in not the best? Like, it's who is the work for and what is the work for? And that question, I feel like, gets answered when we respect our experts and we ask our experts to make plays. We respect them when we ask them to make plays. And by making plays and them giving us transparency as to what certain policy is for, what certain work is for, that takes care of the fight, at least on one front. Like, the Americans can't fight the battles for the Nigerians. You see what I'm saying? Like, Stefan, you know exactly what I'm saying, but it's just, I feel like everyone everywhere has to take care of their side, but at the same time, the African, Caribbean, the Black across the diaspora have to reconnect with the Americans at this time. At this point in time, we gotta get together.
A better time, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this is the time that you know what I mean? There'll be no qualms. It'll be very easy to get together. At least have conversations, at least have meetings. We've done this before, but sorry, bro, go ahead.
Gotta have the Avengers meeting.
We got to.
Got to. Man.
Come on.
Gotta have the Avengers meeting, man. Got to.
You gotta have it. You gotta have the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we could do all sorts of revolt music conference and this conference and that conference and this award show and that, and we can fly this person in and give them a lifetime achievement and da, 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 da. So all right, so now let's have a real conference. Let's have a real conference right now.
I guess my question from a community standpoint, do you think it's widely felt, this responsibility on that top level of leaders from a community point of view, from us and how we try and carry ourselves as individuals navigating through this situation?
Do you mean giving the responsibility to the top is widely felt?
Yeah, and do people like us, you know, regular people trying to fight this fight, do you think it's widely felt that a lot of the responsibility falls on top, and are they felt, you know, to be part of our community when we're so out of touch with billionaires? I mean, we are, as far as I know, out of touch with billionaires, right?
No, to be honest, I think that for the most part, we kind of like individualize this fight, or even we get to feel like, okay, what am I doing? What can I do? Which is fine, but we don't put the responsibility on the top in a way of we want to work with them. We kind of, when we do put the responsibility on them, we put the responsibility on them. Oh, you gotta come save us. You're supposed to be saving us. You're supposed to be doing everything for us. Where we need to get back that connection with the billionaires, because at the end of the day, you know, the $1 billion only shields them so far from, you know, what we deal with. So, like you said, we have to go from looking at it as they're up there and it's them, and then we're down here and it's us. Where now, like, okay, now these are just the top of us. You get what I'm saying? I feel like if we shift it to that, we'll be in better shape. But right now, I don't think it's quite there yet. It's more of like, yo, the top needs to do this for us.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just to interject a little. Do you think, at least from your point of view, are you waiting for someone else to like create a vision or like a focus on like what we need to do? Like, from what I'm listening to and what I'm getting is that we're looking to our leaders rather than organizing amongst ourselves and creating our own vision in our own community here. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And while it's important that people who have clout co-sign what we're doing, do you think it also is important that from the grassroots level, we are organized and that we have our own, I guess, vision, and we are relying on ourselves solely? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very important, because then we can, if we on the grassroots level come up with a foundation, a plan, a scheme that's viable, then you can just hand it straight over. Here you go. Look at this. We need, and when we have something like that, we have exactly what we need. Okay, we need X amount of dollars. We need it here. We need it here. We need it here. We need this. If we wait for the people with the clout to come up with a plan, they have like families and stuff too that they have to take care of. They have a, like, you know, it's a saying, like, when you ask like somebody in your family, you ask them for money, do you think that you're the only person that's asking them for money? Like, you know what I mean? Like, they take care of the family already. This is a responsibility that they have constantly. This is the pressure that they're on constantly. So I feel like it's not our responsibility to add to that pressure. Like, I'm not coming to Jay-Z like, yo, ho, save the world. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know you've been trying. I see you've been trying, but save it. Like, turn it up. No. Yo, ho, we can help you. Like, we have a method that might work. Take a look at this. Collaboration, like real collaborations. And it starts at the grassroots level, because if the grassroots people don't even have no ideas of their own, then we're just going back towards a different kind of master class, ruling class, slave class, serving class. It'll just rebirth itself in a different form, I feel like.
I was gonna say, what does, I get, at least right now, what does culture have? What kind of effect or impact does culture have on community, specifically ours? Especially being in the music industry, or at least contributing to it. Like, what do you think culture, how that affects, in your view, how it affects community right now?
I think right now that's almost a way that we learn. It's like, you know, to a degree, like we look at culture as kind of the defining factors for a lot of things, our mannerisms, our creativity, like a lot of things. So when we look at culture, I think, and this is why I kind of like everything that's happening right now. Like I think when it comes to music, you know, movies, whatever the case may be, writing books, it doesn't matter. I think people are now within our culture. Of course, they're gonna create what they want to create, but I think they're now going to at least take a second thought before they start putting out certain things out into the masses, because it has such a strong impact. It has such a strong hold on our youth and in our whole community. So I think, you know, with everything going on, it kind of allows us to kind of take a step back and kind of look at what we're putting out and ask ourselves this question: is it gonna push us forward? Is it gonna help us? Or is it, you know, good quality stuff that we're putting out, so we continue to push, you know, I hate using this phrase, but push the culture forward to, you know, heights in which everybody can benefit in a positive manner. And I think culture in our community, it means a lot, man. It, you know, we're very creative, we're very innovative, and I think, you know, if we were able to use culture to our advantage, continue to use culture to our advantage, then we could do some scary things.
And Evan, this honestly even circles back to at the beginning of the conversation when you asked like what do we want to offer the world, and the first thing is a culture. Like a culture gives its people their color, their language, their moral compass, their what they value. You know what I'm saying? Their justice system. This is all born from culture. You know what I'm saying? So like. And there's a reason, if we look at our world today, there's a reason that, for example, hip hop culture is so powerful. We can all see the power of hip hop, but there's a reason that there's certain artists or there's certain types of messages that get pushed in hip hop culture. Because at the end of the day, you know, radio waves, sound waves, this is frequencies. So culture allows us to tune to a certain frequency. Culture allows us to get certain messages across and to accept certain things as truth and to reject certain things. So culture is the foundation for anything we're trying to do. Anything we're trying to do. And part of our problem is our culture has been so subdivided. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I don't even think that's something that was done to us. I feel like that's a natural thing. Like all the black people that came to America aren't from the same land, and like they don't look at each other as the same. Like what Stefan just said earlier, as like and what Marcus is saying. There's no who calls themselves black. Where's that? Black people. People in where I'm from. I'm born in Nigeria. They don't call themselves black people. What is that? You know what I'm saying? Like there's you're from here. I'm Fulani. I'm Ashanti. I'm this. I'm that. I am something. My culture. So I feel like when we hold on one sec.
I was like, I was enthralled. I was like, what's he gonna say? I'll push this to you, Josh. I was gonna say, what is a current culture icon right now that you think is having a positive influence on like community in general for you? Like in your work, like what do you think is like something you find yourself looking up to and say like, this is how I want to embody culture. And this is the type of impact I want to have.
Oh, even though he passed away, Nipsey Hussle, for sure. That's my favorite rapper of all time. That's one of my favorite innovators of all time. Everything, like anything Nip was on in terms of community, pushing the community forward, the culture forward, you know, bringing new ideas and new opportunities to people around them like him, who came from this environment, that environment. You know, there's no one that did it better, in my opinion. I feel in that short period of time, and I feel if we can have more Nips and Jay-Z's, whatever, then like I said, we're looking good as a culture. And I think, you know, by him doing what he was able to do, from, you know, bringing, you know, certain gangs together to kind of see eye to eye, even on a, you know, respect level, you know, whether they can just pass each other in the street or have neutral zones. Like, that's a lot, you know, because like I said, we have a lot of deep rooted issues in our culture that, you know, take time. It takes patience. It takes, you know, certain leaders and certain people taking chances and having faith and stepping up. So definitely he's up there for me. That's number one for me.
Yeah. Ben, I want to push this question to you as well. Who is a cultural leader that you are, who has shaped the way that you try to make impact on the world, on your community specifically?
Great question. I think I'll bring in James Baldwin again because I always bring him in, and I think it's timely. He just made me, or allowed me, gave me the blueprint of revisiting Blackness and the potential of Black people as a collective, but more so, and probably more importantly, revisiting how I see myself. You know, he made it really important, if not integral and critical, to first treat yourself as the moral standard. Like, make sure that you've done the work, you've done the healing, you've revisited your demons and addressed them and sat with them before you can go in and make change and progress in the rest of the world. Or whatever you're trying to do out there is just a response to your own insecurities, fixations, and you know, self-esteem issues. And so I realized that good is not necessarily good in the broad sense, because if it's really just tying into something that you are trying to mold into what you think is valuable and not what is actually valuable for people, you're actually oppressing them in a more covert way. And so I think, you know, bringing it back into this conversation, I just realized that my work is a direct reflection of where I sit personally. Like, I can't be a sick doctor. The irony is too grave for me to move forward in that, especially with thought work and thought exercises. So I bring it back to James Baldwin.
We've had many a conversation, and I feel like I've gone on so many deep dives on like where I should start reading a lot of his work. So I want to thank you for that. But to move into another question, how do you think what's going on right now is going to change the way people curate like the type of culture they want to, or the type of things that they're trying to, I guess, digest, or just like, I don't know, I'm trying to find the word again.
Want to put out into the world?
Yeah, just like, yeah, how do you think what's going on is going to curate that? Like, do you think it's going to change the way people are digesting, or like, what's that?
No, I was saying that I have like an additional question to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like, so Rich and Josh, you guys are hip hop artists, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Do you feel that there's a problem with hip hop culture?
So many.
Yeah, definitely. There's a whole lot.
Okay. What do you think are the main ones?
I think it goes back to kind of what Rich was talking about, how we either don't hold or sometimes wrongly hold our leaders accountable. In hip hop, I feel, you know, a lot of us within our culture don't do a lot of, you know, background information and things that we need to do. We're kind of a people that will hear something about, you know, an artist of ours, or, you know, it doesn't matter what the field. It can be music, acting, whatever the case may be. But as soon as we hear from TMZ, or as soon as we hear from whatever, that's just fact. That's what it is. And like I forget what me and Rich were talking about the other day, but, you know, that's almost a form of rewriting history. You know, like we allow people within the media companies, and that's how I feel is a really big problem, to kind of rewrite history in from when it comes to either, you know, cultural things that they may or may not understand. I feel we have to do a better job of, you know, looking at our artists and looking at our leaders for who they are, and either doing better research on them or doing better research when things happen, so we can either support them better or hold them accountable when, you know, things go wrong, because no other culture is going to do that for us. No one's going to give us the benefit of the doubt. No one's going to, because they haven't been doing that for forever. You know what I'm saying? So I feel it's a big disconnect for us. So that's why, like, you have a lot of artists, when they come into the game, they always want to rap about, you know, who wasn't there for me, or who wasn't doing this, or these feelings, you know, these lines that are coming from various artists and are similar. They're not coming from nowhere. Like, artists aren't just waking up in the morning and saying they feel like that. No, this is coming from, you know, a real issue within our community.
Mark, I got one issue in hip hop. I call it, or not I call it, but male posturing, like, in hip hop, like having to be the the biggest, baddest, toughest, richest, most handsomest, getting the in hip hop. Like, you're not even allowed to be like if you could be a whole hip hop artist and make like $70,000-$80,000 a year, and publicly be perceived as a failure, as broke. Like, if you're not making $100 million, if you don't have, you don't have a Richard Mill. What are you doing? You like that kind of behavior is a big issue in hip hop. Big issue in hip hop, especially with the young kids, because, like, you know, like, I go outside and I see 13-year-olds wearing $300 t-shirts and things like that. Like I'm talking about, like, black kids who their mom, their dad doesn't even have that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but because of the needs, you know, I gotta be the S. I gotta be the. I feel like there's an issue in hip hop.
This is really timely. I had a conversation yesterday with a friend of mine who is a rapper, and we were talking about issues that plague the community with regards to hip hop, and he was talking about snitching. We were talking about just getting rid of the narrative of stop snitching. If you see someone murdering someone in your community, why are we protecting that person? And then you listen to some of the music, and there are artists, we know it. I mean, it's almost taboo to say, but that is such a big, strong narrative in the hip hop and in rap, this snitching thing. You know, when we talk about valuing lives, we kind of just exclude that point, that we nod our heads along to someone saying it and to that coming up in all of these songs, right? When in reality, that's really hurting our community when we are not holding these criminals accountable for literally murdering another human being. Like, start snitching, you know?
I don't
it's shitty, but at the end of the day, if we're going to be holding people accountable for not valuing human life, let's hold people accountable for not valuing human life. You know,
that's not where at least for where I'm coming from when it comes to no snitching, that's not where it's coming from. The reason why the no snitching is even like there or whatever, it's if you aren't ready to even get in that life in the first place, you shouldn't even go there. Like, the you know, the streets, you know, as many may call it, isn't for everybody, as a lot of people would say. Like, that's why these rules and extreme measures are there. Like, it's not meant for everybody. Like, it's not meant for your everyday average person. So I'm not condoning, obviously, taking another life, but the fact that a person is in that situation or in that lifestyle, you have to understand that there's certain things that come with it. And if you are not able to handle those things, then you shouldn't even be there in the first place, period.
I see what you're saying for someone involved in it, but think about the community around, right? So there are people who are not willing and not involved, and they have these things happening around them, but they fear for their own lives. They fear as though even they saw their neighbor committing murder, they are not involved. Gang life is not their life. There's somebody's mom who's got 4 children at home, but they fear for their own life because they fear if they speak up to say that they witnessed a murder, that their life and their family is at risk. Not just the people who are literally choosing. I understand there are people who choose to be involved, and that's a total different subset. Those are different people. That's a different conversation. But
But at the same time, Nadia, sorry to interrupt you. Snitch is exclusively reserved for those people. When you are involved, and then you go and tell. The rest of us who are not involved, we're regular civilians. And the regular civilians have an issue with snitching because you're giving, at the end of the day, yeah, it's a criminal in your community, but you're also, it's conflicting in the mind because, yeah, this person's harming my community, but at the same time, am I gonna give them literally up to the oppressor? Like, I'm literally gonna get, you know what I'm saying? Like, if we, the history of the police force, like, I'm gonna give, slaves used to snitch on each other. That's how they got caught. So am I gonna give this person up to the like literally, like give them up to the master? That's where a civilian's mind is conflicting. And I understand what you're saying. Like, it's conflicting the civilian's mind because of that. But then for the actual snitches, snitching is snitching itself destroys the Black community.
That's and we're talking about the people that are involved. I'm solely, and I understand 100% what you're saying. I'm solely speaking about the people who, from the broader point of view, from the community. And really the gang violence doesn't always, and the violence that comes from, the gang affiliation doesn't always hit exclusively gang members. There are bystanders, and there is collateral damage involved when this happens. So, if I'm a mother and I've got 4 children and I live in a neighborhood that's riddled with gang violence, one of my children may get shot walking down the street because there was something that was happening with my neighbors. And I'm not part of it. I'm not involved. I'm not in the streets. My children aren't either. However, if my next door neighbor saw it, they may not speak up on what they saw because of this feeling. And I say stitching, and yeah, I'm using stitching very broadly because I understand that from a hip hop, I should say hip hop, from a gang perspective, we are talking about the involved parties. I'm just saying, we as a community have this fear of the repercussions that are going to happen to us if I'm going to.
I can do, I can't go arrest them.
Right, but I'm saying, like, what you just said, you could go talk to the gang member and see where his headspace is at.
Yeah.
What does the police do to the gang member? That doesn't help the community?
To have them off the streets if they're too violent.
Well, of course, but the point I'm making is that, or not the point I'm making, but kind of the way I see it is that, okay, if somebody is that violent, if there's a person, and we all have people in our neighborhoods that people know are like, there's something's off about this person. Isn't it not literally the responsibility of the community to either take care of this person or to make sure that this person gets to a place that they can be taken care of? Or is, this motherfucker too crazy, police, come get him.
But the police is supposed to be a part of your community.
True.
But because, all right, think about it. All right, there's a dude, let's say that there's a guy going around murdering people. And let's say that, like, I get sick of it and I decide to do something about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do I have to become to do something about it?
I almost said Batman.
Like, I have to become almost like a murderer. Like, if I'm serious about it.
No.
Like, I have to become a monster myself, and I think that's what the police is there to protect me from becoming.
Also speaks to, sorry, I dropped off earlier, but it also speaks to the role and the systemic changes that I think a lot of these movements are aiming for with the police, where if you look at some of the countries where their criminal justice system seems like it's working very successfully compared to Canadian and American, they focus rather than on punishment, but more so on rehabilitation. So that's a broken part of the system where we're scared to give a member of our community to the police because we know it's punishment. We know that it's not going in the direction of rehabilitation. So those are 2 different mindsets and 2 different things we need to adjust. One is, yes, the community and I know I missed a part of what you guys were saying, but coming together to stop violent behavior and coming together to stop disregard for human life. But we do need to make that huge systemic change where the system, we're not turning somebody over to be punished, we're turning someone over to be rehabilitated, changed, and healed, remedied. That's a huge systemic change that this movement should be enticing all of the governments to move towards.
You're spot on. And Mark, I was gonna say, just how you said, like, what do I have to turn into to get the problem out of there? What do I have to become to get the violent gaming out of there? But, like, is it not, like, again, I'm a monster if I'm sending him to a cage for life. Like, there's a certain kind of sickness that you need. There's a certain kind of desensitization or numbness that you need to be able to just know somebody's about to literally rot, literally, you know, for the rest of their life. Over, and especially, you know, over something that silly stuff, like over stuff that can be changed with conversation and education.
So Mark, I think you're speaking on something that's valid. Like there's contingencies. Like at the end of the day, we're in a society that we've created this concept of policing, of a cop that should be there to enforce peace and safety and all that good stuff. But contingency doesn't necessarily suggest what's right. And I think the thing you might have been remiss in not mentioning is there's power dynamics embedded in you going to the cop. They now know that their place is elevated. It's not reciprocated in any way. And I think that's where reform comes, understanding that dynamic. If you don't speak on power, it's problematic.